Here's the scenario. You're a DJ. Your friend's a DJ. You're a Mac user. He's a PC user. So what, right? You want to share some music with your PC user friend. So you bring your Mac formatted hard drive over to your friend's house, you plug it into his PC, and the first thing that pops up is a little prompt that says, do you want to format this drive? Now you're confused. You're like, wait a minute. I formatted this drive. It's got my music on it. Why can't I share it? So your PC buddy goes, well, maybe I can't have your music, but you can have mine. So he takes his hard drive and plugs it into your Mac, and it works. And you're like, wow, I wonder why my hard drive would not work on a PC, but this PC hard drive is working on a Mac. Well, the answer to that is because they're running different file systems. And if you have no idea what a file system is or what it means, keep watching this video. We're going to talk all about it today here on DJ Tech Tips. What is a file system? A file system is a framework for organizing files in an operating system or an external drive. It lays out the information that can be stored and what file names and permissions and other attributes can be attached to the files you save. File systems are specific to operating systems. Windows uses a different file system than Mac and vice versa. Although some file systems are able to be read and written to by different operating systems, there are some that are very specific to a particular operating system. We're going to start with Windows and the file systems that run within it. Disclaimer, we're going to be talking about Mac and Windows and the file systems that lie within them and how to get them to talk to each other. I know there's plenty of other file systems out there. If you're a super tech nerd like me, I know you're going to watch this video and go, Seth, that's not all the info. But this is specific to you guys as DJs, so we're going to talk about the file systems that matter to us. Starting with FAT32. Now, FAT32 was introduced with Windows 95 with the intention of writing data to floppy disks. So it's been around for a really long time, and you're probably thinking to yourself, well, who still uses that? It's Windows 95, ew. A lot of people, and a lot of devices actually still use FAT32. Now, FAT32 is cross-compatible between macOS and Windows, which is really awesome. The caveat to FAT32 is that you can't load a file larger than 4 gigs at one time. So if you're using it for music, it's not that big a deal because music files aren't 4 gigabytes apiece. However, if you're using an external drive to store your video from all your content that you're getting at your events, you're not going to want to format it in FAT32, as some video files, especially if you're shooting in 4K, are going to be larger than 4 gigabytes, and it's not going to work. It's not compatible. Like I said earlier, FAT32 is compatible with Mac and Windows, but it's an older file system. Yes, it works. There's no problem with it, but there are better options for you out there, especially when it comes to file permissions and security. Speaking of newer, better file systems, let's talk about exFAT, exFAT. Now, this was introduced in 2006 with Windows XP and Vista. It was an update that you can get for the software to be able to use exFAT. exFAT is just as compatible as FAT32. You can use it on a Mac, you can use it on Windows, certain Linux machines. The difference between exFAT and FAT32 is exFAT, you can load files larger than 4 gigabytes. So if you're running video and you need a cross-platform hard disk to go from PC to Mac, exFAT is the best way to go because you can connect to both operating systems and you can load files larger than 4 gigabytes. It's also a little bit faster and it's got better permissions as opposed to FAT32, which is an older standard before all those things even mattered. We've talked about the file systems that are cross-platform capable, FAT32 and exFAT. And between the two of them, if you're going to choose one, always choose exFAT. It's faster, it's better, it's more secure. Now we're going to get into file systems that are operating system specific. Let's say you live in a world like I do. I am in a Mac world. I use all Mac products. My computers are Mac. I have iPads. Everything is Mac. So I don't need cross-platform compatibility. What we're going to talk about now is NTFS. Now, NTFS is Microsoft's main file system, and it's the format that all current Windows machines are being sent out with. It differs from FAT32 and exFAT in that it's a journaled operating system. And what that means is it tracks changes before they're written to aid in data recovery. So it knows what's happening and it tracks those changes. That way, if you lose something, you can go step by step back in a process and find it. It also has better permission and encryption features, so it makes it a little safer for you. So if you didn't want certain people to access certain things on your drives, you really want to secure your music, you can write an NTFS and make those permissions possible. Now, on Windows, it can be read and written to, which means if you go from PC to PC, any PC can see it, any PC can write to it, any PC can read it. However, on Mac, it is a read-only file system. So you're not going to be able to add to an external drive, add music or add videos, whatever you want to do, but you will be able to see them and read them, which is execute them. Which basically means if you're a PC user, NTFS is the only way to go, especially if you're running something like Windows 10, Windows 11, which you hopefully should be, because if you're not, you are super outdated. Just like Windows has NTFS, which is their file system specifically for them that can only be used by Windows, of course Mac has a version of that themselves, two actually. Starting with the older one, we have macOS Extended Journaled. Now, this is on Macs running OS 10.12 or older, so you would really need to have an older Mac or a really old operating system, which I don't recommend anyway because it's not secure and it's not safe. But if you are running an older Mac on older hardware with an older operating system, you're going to want to format your external drives in macOS Extended Journal. Now, it is just like it sounds. Just like NTFS, it's a journal operating system, so it tracks changes before they happen. But it's not designed to run on solid-state drives or flash storage. So keep that in mind. If you're running a Mac with a rotational hard drive, a mechanical drive, you're good to run macOS Extended Journal. If your external hard drive is a mechanical drive, you're good to run macOS Extended Journal. However, if you're using a solid-state drive or flash storage, it's recommended that you go with Apple's newest and greatest file system. The last file system we're going to talk about today is APFS. Now, this is an Apple file system created in 2017, and it's a default file system for all new Mac computers. It features strong encryption, space sharing, snapshots, and improved file system fundamentals. Without getting ridiculously technical, APFS is faster, smarter, and safer than macOS Extended Journal. However, if you're running an external hard drive using APFS, keep in mind that older Mac computers running software macOS 10.12 and below won't be able to read APFS. Now, APFS can read and write to Mac Journal, so keep that in mind. If you have an older Mac and a new Mac and you want to be able to talk between the two of them and handle music between the two, you're going to want to run in macOS Extended Journal. However, if you're running all new Macs and your external storage is a solid-state drive, you want to run APFS. APFS is made for solid-state drives and flash storage devices, as opposed to macOS Journal, which is created for mechanical drives. Now, you can put APFS on a mechanical drive. That's not an issue whatsoever. So if you do have an older Mac, you can format that Mac in APFS, install the operating system, and then on an older Mac, you can utilize APFS on an external storage device. However, if you have an older Mac using macOS Extended Journaled, it's not going to be able to read or write to an APFS drive. So you want to make sure that if you're using a Mac computer, you know which version of macOS you're working with, so you know which file system to implement on your external storage. So you get this nifty new hard drive, you want to put your music on it, but you're not too sure what file system to format it in. Well, ask yourself this question: am I just using it on a specific operating system? If the answer to that question is yes, then you definitely want to format for that specific system. So if you're running Windows, highly recommend NTFS. If you're running newer Mac hardware, I highly recommend APFS. However, if you're a Mac and a PC user, you're going to want that cross compatibility. And for that, the only thing I could recommend is exFAT. Yes, FAT32 works, but exFAT's better. So remember, when you're formatting for a file system, you have to think of the uses and what you want to do with it. Now, as DJs, we have different types of storage devices. We have our hard drives for our music, but if you're using cameras, they use SD cards. SD cards come pre-formatted as exFAT. Leave them alone. That's what the cameras and devices need in order to read and write from those cards. You don't want to mess with file systems on like SD cards. Just leave them as they are. They're exFAT. It's going to work perfect and everything's going to be okay. The reason why I say that is things like NTFS and APFS and macOS Extended Journal aren't supported by most hardware that isn't a computer. So quick overview. Use the file system that works best for you and your workflow, just like everything on this channel. I'm not here to say anything's better than the other, although if you're gonna choose a file system, make sure that it's the one that works 100% for you. And if you're not too sure, exFAT. exFAT's always the safest bet. You never have an issue. It's cross-platform compatible. It's fast. It can upload large single files. exFAT is really the way to go if you're looking to be safe. Now, if you know that you're just going to use your Windows PC or your Mac computer, then choose the file system that works best for you within that confinement. Windows, NTFS. Way to go. Fastest, smartest. Apple, APFS. Again, the fastest, the smartest, the newest. I hope this video helped somebody somewhere trying to figure out how to format their external hard drive to get the best performance out of their setup. If you like what you saw and want to learn more about technology and how it applies to DJing and going deep into it, please feel free to subscribe, like this video, check us out. Again, my name is Seth with DJ Tech Tips. We out.